You probably think Selenium is magic. If Selenium has ever felt flaky to you, finicky, or constantly breaking, then I'm sorry to have to say this, but you probably think that it's pure magic. Hi there. My name is Jean-Pierre Loxton. I've been an automator and Java developer for roughly 14 years, and I would love to welcome you to my Selenium Automation from Scripter to Master tutorial series. My goal with this series is to get you up and running, as well as having a fluent understanding of Selenium and automation as a whole. So like I was saying, you probably think Selenium is magic. Unfortunately, today I'm going to ruin that illusion. Welcome to Lesson 0, what Selenium is and isn't. Now on screen, as an automator or tester, you will probably see something that would set your heart running, thumping loudly in your chest. Because admit it, we've all been there. We run an automation test, expecting it to pass, and for no reason at all out of the blue, it's just failed. Now I'm here today to tell you that Selenium itself didn't fail. No, unfortunately, your assumptions did. Now, before we write even a single line of automation code in this entire series, we need to understand exactly what Selenium is and what it is not. Behold the first mental model that you will need to survive automation. Right now on screen, you will see 4 icons. Your test code, the Selenium APIs, the browser driver, and real browsers. What I would like for you to understand is that Selenium does not automate websites. Selenium actually automates browsers. And the way this is done is that it sends instructions through a driver, and the driver in turn talks to the browser in the same way that we as humans would. What I mean by that is, if the browser wouldn't understand it, then Selenium won't either. You see, I would like for you to think of Selenium as a browser remote control of sorts. You tell Selenium to open a browser, to navigate to a URL, to find an element or more in a website's DOM, and finally to interact with that element, whether it is a click, whether it is typing, reading, or even waiting. That's it. Not really anything more, not really anything less. You see, Selenium doesn't understand business logic at all. It doesn't know what a login is. And even more so, it does not know what success means. All of that, that's your responsibility. It's your job to understand the logic. It's your job as an automator to understand what login is. And it's also your job to understand what success means for a particular test. Because of this, a lot of bad tests actually blame Selenium. But that shouldn't be the case. Now, I want to talk about one of the more misunderstood pieces of Selenium. You see, browsers such as Firefox or Chrome, they don't have or expose a public automation button. That means that Selenium, therefore, uses browser-specific drivers to interact with each specific browser. On the screen before you are 3 different drivers. There are more out there. However, for the purpose of the series, we will talk about these 3. Chrome driver interacts with Chrome. Gecko driver interacts with Firefox. And Edge driver, last but not least, interacts with Microsoft's Edge browser. So think of these drivers as translators. Your Java code doesn't talk to Chrome directly. Instead, it talks to one of these or one of many drivers out there. The driver talks to Chrome, or at least to your browsers. This essentially makes it important that driver versions do matter. Any updates to a browser, a driver, or the application under test can break tests. And this is also why Selenium in and of itself is not flaky. Rather that the ecosystem surrounding it is. So my goal with this series is to help you so that by the end of this, your ecosystem as a whole will no longer be finicky, flaky, or prone to breaking. Now, what I want to do is just touch upon a couple of different tools in the automation toolbar, as it were. On your screen, you'll see 3 different tools, namely Selenium, Playwright, and Cypress. Now, I know that there are many more tools out there, many more clients, dependencies, or frameworks. However, again, for the purpose of this series, we will be talking only about these 3. On the left-hand side, we have Selenium. Now, some of the pros of Selenium are the fact that it is cross-language compatible. Because Selenium is only a dependency that we add to a framework, your framework then can be in one of a number of different coding languages. Languages such as C#, JavaScript, Python, Java. Selenium is also cross-browser capable, meaning that, as we just saw, it can interact with Chrome, with Edge, with Firefox through browser-specific drivers. Because of how long Selenium has been around, for the most part, it was, and to some degree still is, an industry standard, meaning that you will find more interactivity, more questions online, as well as more answers, as the community for Selenium has grown exponentially. Selenium, therefore, is also quite verbose, explicit, and powerful. Because it is a coding forward dependency, you then have the freedom of coding what you need to enable Selenium to interact and do the things that you need it to do. In the middle, then, we have Playwright. Now, Playwright is one of the newer kids on the block, and as such, it has more modern APIs, allowing it to interact with browsers a little smoother in terms of memory management and flakiness off the bat. Because of this, it also has a much faster setup. Out of the box, you should be able to interact and go almost immediately. However, this is also quite dependent on a number of factors. Playwright also has strong defaults, meaning that out of the box, it will already have a number of ways to interact with elements already predetermined and given to you to use. Playwright, unfortunately, also has an opinionated design. Because it is essentially a standalone application, think of it as its own IDE specifically designed for automation. Because of this, there isn't much in terms of freedom, as you will find with Selenium. On the right-hand side, you'll find Cypress. Now with Cypress, it is JavaScript only. It is not a dependency or a standalone application. Instead, it runs directly inside the browser. And because of this, it also does have, unfortunately, limited cross-browser depth, meaning that while it will be available for a number of browsers, it is not available for all of them. The reason I bring these three up is because I'm not telling you that one or the other is better. Instead, I bring these up to let you know that there are many different ways out there with which we can achieve automation and automation engineering. Tool choice is solely about trade-off. What this means is that in a professional setting, companies as a whole will have chosen which automation tool, dependency, or framework to use. And as such, it is a good idea to gain knowledge in many of these and not just one. For the purposes of this series, we will only be focusing on Selenium. So then this leaves us with what then is Selenium's place in real-world applications. Here's what a lot of seniors don't really tell beginners. Most companies that have had automation in place for a number of years will already have had Selenium put in place, and because of that, it doesn't fully get replaced. Instead, companies tend to layer either on top or around their Selenium framework or Selenium tests. The reason for this are things such as legacy apps that have been in the works and have existed for longer than, say, Playwright has been around and has had automation done from the very beginning, multi-browser requirements, and this is something we will get into further in the series, is that a real-world company might require automation for the same application under test on more than one browser. And with Selenium, that's quite a simple feat. Another reason could be CI pipelines already having built or having been built with Selenium baked in, such as having a Jenkins CI server running automation scripts automatically or predetermined. And another one is that teams could also have been pre-trained on Java, TestNG, and TestUnit. Teams have already been pre-trained on Java, TestNG, and JUnit. You see, Selenium survives solely because it integrates. Because of that, this is the entire reason behind my creation of this series. So if you can remember one thing from this video, remember this. Selenium is not magic. It's not flaky or finicky. In fact, it's not even smart. You see, Selenium is dumb. Very, very dumb. And as such, it is an extremely honest mirror of your application under test. In the next lesson, we will stop talking philosophy and we'll start to build an actual professional environment from scratch. No shortcuts and definitely no copy-paste magic. I hope you've enjoyed this so far. Thank you for joining me.